He lied about a $1 stock, scammed thousands of ordinary people out of their life savings, and served less than 2 years in jail. Then Hollywood made him a legend, and he got rich all over again. This is the story of Jordan Belfort, the man who built an empire on lies, walked away almost untouched, and somehow made America cheer for him. The scariest part isn't what he did, it's why we let him. Bayside, Queens, 1962. A working-class neighborhood where ambition had a ceiling and dreams stayed modest. Jordan Belfort was born here, and from the very beginning, he had no interest in ceilings. At 16, while other kids were chasing girls, Jordan was running a street operation selling Italian ices along the beaches of Long Island. By summer's end, he had pocketed $20,000, and he was just getting started. He enrolled in dental school, convinced it was the fast lane to wealth, until the dean stood up on day one and announced, "If you're here to get rich, you're in the wrong profession." Jordan stood up, nodded, and walked straight out the door. Next stop, meat. Jordan launched a door-to-door seafood and steak business, cold-calling strangers and convincing housewives they needed flash-frozen USDA Prime delivered to their driveways. For a while, it actually worked. $100,000 a month in sales, no warehouse, no trucks, just pure hustle. Then, late deliveries, spoiled product, and a mountain of unpaid invoices caught up with him, and the business collapsed into bankruptcy. But in the wreckage, Jordan discovered something that would change everything. He didn't need a better product. He just needed a better payout. The product was irrelevant. The pitch was everything. In the late 1980s, Jordan landed an entry-level job at L.F. Rothschild, a legitimate Wall Street firm. Suits, quotas, and cocaine in the bathroom stalls because it was the 1980s. He learned how real brokers talked, how markets moved, and most importantly, how money could be made by the person holding the phone. Then October 19, 1987 arrived, Black Monday, and the stock market lost nearly a quarter of its value in a single day. Jordan was fired before the ticker stopped falling. While other brokers mourned, Jordan saw opportunity buried in the wreckage, specifically in penny stocks, the pink sheet garbage that no serious firm would touch. These were tiny, unregulated, near-worthless shares, but they paid 50% commissions, 10 times what normal stocks offered. He picked up a phone and called a stranger in Nebraska, and within 4 minutes he had closed a $4,000 sale on a company the man had never heard of. It was the moment Jordan Belfort understood exactly what he was capable of. "Hello, Mr. Michael. This company is tiny right now, yes, but it's sitting on technology that's about to disrupt the entire home entertainment industry. You get in at $1 a share today, and in 6 months you're not calling me to say thank you, you're calling me from your beach house in Maui." The prospect hesitated. "I'm not sure I really understand the company," and Jordan's answer was the most honest thing he ever said. "You don't have to understand the company, sir. You just have to understand the upside." The man bought 4,000 shares. In 1989, Jordan decided he was done making money for other people. He found a partner, Danny Porish, a fast-talking, drug-snorting misfit from Long Island with the charm of a car salesman and the loyalty of a street dog, and together they were dangerous. They rented space in a strip mall in Lake Success, New York, and called it Stratton Oakmont, a name designed to sound like it had a 100-year legacy in leather-bound ledgers. In reality, it was a boiler room with flickering lights, mismatched desks, and zero regulatory oversight. Jordan didn't hire analysts or finance graduates. He hired bartenders, college dropouts, and neighborhood hustlers who were hungry enough to do whatever it took. He didn't want thinkers. He wanted closers. Then came the training, a psychological pressure system Jordan called straight-line persuasion, designed to turn a stammering rookie into a closing machine in under 3 weeks. It was built to bulldoze hesitation, drown out doubt, and walk a prospect from hello to where do I send the check in a single, unbroken line. The phone room came alive with a rhythm that felt like electricity, loud, fast, addictive, and completely out of control. Orders flowed in all day. The money started arriving in quantities that none of them had ever seen. But Stratton's real genius wasn't in how it sold, it was in who it targeted. They went after the investors Wall Street ignored. Working-class retirees, desperate parents, families who'd saved for decades and were willing to bet it all on one good tip. Stratton sold these people hope, wrapped in urgency, dressed in false certainty, backed by made-up projections and companies that barely existed outside their own press releases. It was fraud, but it was disguised as opportunity, and that disguise was almost perfect. The early scheme was simple. Buy huge blocks of cheap penny stock shares before anyone knew they existed, then unleash the sales floor. Call after call, promise after promise, they'd flood the market with artificial excitement, spike the stock price, then dump their shares at the top, leaving thousands of investors holding worthless paper. On Wall Street, this is called a pump and dump scheme, a federal crime carrying serious prison time. At Stratton Oakmont, they called it Another Tuesday. By the early 1990s, Stratton had evolved from a strip mall boiler room into one of the most profitable and most corrupt brokerages in America. They were now taking legitimate companies public in IPOs, raising hundreds of millions, and controlling the entire process from the inside. The office had become a carnival. Air horns, screaming phones, strippers in the conference room, champagne flowing into fax machines, and enough narcotics to sedate a small country. Underperformers were publicly humiliated and replaced within hours. Top closers were treated like royalty, showered with cash and watches thrown across the room like confetti. Jordan built a culture where fear and loyalty were the only two currencies that mattered. He had become a cult leader in an Armani suit, and like all cult leaders, he truly believed his own gospel. He bought a helicopter. He named his yacht after his wife, Naomi, a vessel that cost more than most people earned in a decade. Mansions, Lamborghinis, Rolexes, the possessions stacked up as fast as the bodies of the people he was robbing. His first marriage had already collapsed under the weight of the lifestyle, and his second, to Naomi, was beginning to crack along the same fault lines. She'd find pills stuffed in couch cushions, syringes hidden in bathroom tiles, and a husband who was increasingly unreachable inside his own spiral. In 1996, Jordan crashed his Ferrari into a concrete pillar while high on Quialutus, with his 3-year-old daughter sitting in the passenger seat. She was unharmed. Jordan barely noticed. That same year, he insisted on sailing the Naomi from Italy to Sardinia during a full storm, drunk and high against the captain's explicit warnings. The yacht took on water in the middle of the Tyrrhenian Sea and had to be rescued by the Italian Navy. The vessel was destroyed, and something inside Jordan was destroyed with it. Back in New York, the machinery of law enforcement had been quietly building a case for years. Gregory Coleman, an FBI agent in the Financial Crimes Division, had been pulling cold call scripts, subpoenaing wire records, and tracing real estate purchases that didn't match any reported income. Coleman found a pattern: $50,000 cash withdrawals cycled through casinos and art galleries, millions moving through shell companies, offshore accounts opened under relatives' names in London and Geneva. At one point, Jordan was moving funds using a housekeeper as a courier, cash stuffed into envelopes sewn into her bra. Meanwhile, inside Stratton, the walls were already beginning to crack. One broker had been caught in a separate fraud and flipped to save himself. Another, burned over an unpaid bonus, put on a wire and started recording. In October 1996, federal agents arrived at Stratton Oakmont just after sunrise. Phones ripped from desks, filing cabinets emptied, hard drives copied on the spot. One employee tried to flush documents down a toilet. Another tried to walk out with a briefcase full of shredded contracts. It was too late for all of it. Jordan still wasn't finished. In early 1997, while under active federal investigation and under explicit legal orders not to move funds, he wired $2 million to Switzerland. The transfer was traced within days, and that single transaction became the thread that unraveled everything. By late 1998, Jordan Belfort was out of moves. He was facing charges for wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering, a potential sentence of 30 years in federal prison. So Jordan did what he had always done. He sold. Not stocks this time, information. He flipped. He cooperated fully with the FBI, wore a wire, and handed over his friends, his partners, and the people who had followed him like disciples. More than 30 Stratton employees were indicted, brokers, partners, people who had learned everything they knew about sales from Jordan himself. Some of them served more prison time than he did. Jordan Belfort received a sentence of 22 months in a minimum security federal facility. No fences, no cells, guards without guns. He played tennis in the mornings, lifted weights in the afternoons, and spent his evenings writing. His cellmate was Tommy Chong, the comedian from Cheech and Chong, serving time for selling bongs online. Jordan told Tommy the whole story: the drugs, the yacht, the envelopes of cash, the empire, the fall. Tommy wasn't outraged. He was entertained. "Write it down," he said, and Jordan did. In 2007, Jordan published his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, a book that read more like a victory lap than a confession. There were no real apologies, no genuine remorse, just yachts, excess, fraud, and punchlines. And the public devoured every page. He sold the film rights. He wrote a sequel. And in 2013, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio turned it into a global blockbuster that grossed nearly $400 million worldwide. The same man who had lied his way into millions was now entertaining millions and getting paid handsomely for it. Audiences laughed. Critics applauded. Jordan Belfort, convicted felon, became a pop culture icon. The people he scammed got none of it. No movie deal, no fame, no closure. There was the schoolteacher who lost her entire retirement savings, everything she had put aside across 30 years in a classroom. There was the war veteran who invested his life savings on a tip from a broker who sounded so sure, so certain, so professional. There was the family who remortgaged their home to buy in on the next big thing and lost the home. They didn't get book deals, they got debt. A federal court ordered Jordan to pay $110 million in restitution to his victims. To this day, only a fraction of that amount has been paid. The rest disappeared into offshore structures, real estate trusts, and legal loopholes that haven't closed. Jordan says he's working on it. His victims are still waiting. He has been saying this for over 20 years. Today, Jordan Belfort is a motivational speaker, a sales coach, a podcast host, and a brand. He charges thousands of dollars per ticket to teach audiences about sales ethics, the irony apparently lost on everyone involved. He wears the name The Wolf like it's a badge of honor, not the indictment it was meant to be. He didn't just escape justice. He packaged it, sold it, and made it the centerpiece of his second career. "I was guilty of being greedy," he once said. And then came the line that explains everything. "But so is everybody else." Maybe that's why we never really wanted him punished, because deep down, we didn't want to see a cautionary tale. We wanted to see the dream, the helicopter, the yacht, the walk across the trading floor. And Jordan Belfort knew that about us long before we knew it about ourselves. The system didn't fail when Jordan Belfort defrauded thousands of people. The system failed when it turned him into entertainment and called it justice. And we failed when we bought the ticket. This is what unchecked greed looks like when it wears a good suit, speaks with confidence, and knows exactly what you want to hear. This is Jordan Belfort, and the most dangerous thing about him is that he is still out there, still selling. If you made it this far, you already know more about how this game works than most people ever will. Drop a comment below. Would you have taken the call?